agree probably 90% of the red pill, but the 10% I disagree with very vehemently, because it's really quite destructive. But one of these concepts that is never talked about is the impacts of male promiscuity as well.
Sure.
You were talking about how this is actually damaging and is not talked about enough. So I'd love to hear you kind of, dig into that and explain kind of your thinking on that as well.
Sure. It's honestly, it's a really good area that I think a lot of men don't unpack. And this is the discussion. Again, I like to always end my videos by saying that these are just theories, right? These that you kind of, it's similar to like your newsletter. Just you have to take what I'm saying here and just go on a little exploration journey with me. We're trying to figure things out yet, but whether or not we'll come to an answer, I don't know. So there are many different ways I can attempt to answer that question. So the first is that I believe you have to be careful what you experience in life.
Yeah, agreed.
I really think you have to be very, very careful. Like people will say, oh, I want to experience everything. I want to have a full life. I think, yes, but you have to be very careful about some stuff. I know I would never try heroin because I would fucking love it if I did. And that's God's honest truth. Right? I know I cannot allow myself to experience something like that, because then what you have is an impression in your neurochemistry, in your nervous system, and you can't get rid of memories.
Yeah.
You cannot get rid of them. You always have that.
Not healthily,
so,
anyway.
yeah. I mean, if someone can make a tool of maybe erasing some memories, I think that would go for quite a lot on the market. But essentially, once you have a reference point for something in your life, you're always going to use that as an object of comparison. So once you get a hit like that of dopamine so strong into your nervous system, any other subsequent feeling you're going to have is always going to pale in comparison to that. I made the point in that video, I think I know the video that you're referring to, that the more and more sexual partners you have, the more and more reference points you will have to compare your next partner to. And whilst many people will see this as a good thing, it's like, oh, I'm finding out what I want. That's the common response to that. Oh, I should have as many sexual partners as I want because maybe I find out that I really want a woman who is into yoga or likes plants or something like that, something that I hadn't experienced before. My response to that is to invite people to think about, have you thought that if you keep doing this, then you're always going to compare positive traits of previous women, which you do not have in the woman you have now. Okay. Nobody is perfect. I know that's a very trite and cliched thing to say, but there is not a relationship that you'll get into next or after that, or after the second or the third, in which you get everything you want. I wish it could be so, but it's not the reality of things. Okay. So and I'm sure this is something that you teach, Jack, is that you have to find things that you're willing to compromise on in your relationship. Some things might be, okay, the girl I'm with now, she's not very clean. Every time she does her hair and makeup in the bathroom, it's just a mess. It's just a mess. I'm gonna dump her. I'm gonna go and get a new girlfriend, right? So you get this new girlfriend, right? She's out every night on a Friday, but the bathroom's immaculate, right? But she stays out till like 4 a.m. She comes home, wakes you up at like 5 a.m., right? She's drunk, she's slurring, she's vomiting, And now you're thinking, I really didn't care about the bathroom being that clean. So, it's that precedent. It's that concept that you have to think about. So for sake of a little break, I think that's the first point I'll make into that, but perhaps we'll segue into something else. Is that something, I'm curious, Jack, if you teach or you share?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's a very common avoidant pattern to always be looking for perfection. The perfect is the enemy of the good, and it's the fact that it's like there's kind of the hierarchy of relationships, which is there's a great relationship whether you both fully on board with each other and you can work out. And by the way, these things don't happen by chance. They happen because they're worked out. You don't just meet a woman and the relationship's perfect. It's you two working together to make it a great relationship for the two of you, which requires compromise on both parts. It requires cooperation. It requires understanding and empathy and being able to hear each other, communicating openly and directly about things. But even in the very, very, very best relationships, there's still like pretty good relationships. And I would always say like a pretty good relationship is better than a bad relationship, or is better than being single. Like being single is better than a bad relationship, but a pretty good relationship is better than being single as well. And sometimes one of the things that I take issue with in terms of a lot of other maybe dating coaches and relationship advice that's out there is they are often searching, like they're setting almost the standard too high. It's like you can't be in a relationship unless they are X, Y, Z, B, D, F, G, and H. And it's like, okay, like my alphabet is all over the place, but so is that trying to find that person. It's like you're creating such a high ideal that you're probably never going to be able to find that. And you have to be willing to compromise on certain things and understand that a great relationship is made, it's not found. That's just a really important concept. Also, the other point of like that I think builds on your point there is it is almost when you're always looking for this new experience or this new woman, it's kind of like you're just basically in shiny object syndrome mindset.
Right.
Where it's like you're always looking for the new shiny toy rather than kind of appreciating and being able to be grateful for and find the beauty in what you already have. Right. And it's this constant chase and this constant search where it's very symptomatic of our consumerist society. You know, it's not a surprise these things go hand in hand. This kind of this consumerism with this view of like, I need to, you know, try a new woman. I need to try like an Asian woman and a Latin woman and, you know, a white woman, and you just got to be blonde. And if you try a ginger, and it's like, what's going on there is you're often, to loop back to our final point, is you're often avoiding the emotions that come with that deep intimate relationship. You're avoiding the fact that when you have these conversations and you say, look, actually, you know, it is a bit of a problem for me that the bathroom's quite dirty. I understand that you do this, but maybe you can make, you know, we can have this conversation. How can we make this more comfortable for both of us? Right. And a lot of guys are not comfortable with having that conversation. And by the way, that's part of leadership. Like people often ask, like, how do you actually lead a relationship? Well, one of the main ways you actually do it is by starting these hard conversations. Once you start them, they tend to take care of themselves. You both just get into it and you sort it out. But it's that,
and
that
if you don't have them, then it starts to compound and starts to turns into this like huge monster. Resentment starts to build up. And then, you know, by, you know, I don't know, 6 months in, you've got 7 or 8 different grievances against the other person that you're kind of secretly waging war against them and ready for this massive exploding match.
Yeah, in Indonesia, they have a phrase in Indonesian that it basically translates as like it's 1 step, 2 steps, then you're on a mountain. And it's kind of this idea that like if you're just taking these steps and you're ignoring it, and next thing you know, you're at the top of the mountain. And it's a huge problem. Like, and it's just, if you just stop taking the steps and kind of face and look at the fact that there's this mountain ahead of you kind of thing, then you can kind of really, you know, figure it out.
I love it.